My name is Shannon Zettler. I wanted to welcome everybody. Sioka Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship is so happy that you're here. I wanted to welcome all our students on the Zoom call, as well as a shout out to those watching on the live stream. Welcome, and we are really happy that you're here. I'm going to give you a little background on Sioka Center. So our mission is to instill an entrepreneurial mindset across campus with an emphasis on providing relevant academic programs and opportunities for interdisciplinary learning. And the Broncos actually program sort of came out of that idea and is representative of those concepts. Broncos actually is a program focused on bringing current students together with SCU alumni to have active discussions about topics related to self-actualization, passion projects, and the entrepreneurial mindset. And the goal of these sessions is to create a space for an open dialogue. So we look forward to hearing from each of you. Please speak up, please engage. It makes for a pretty exciting event. And for those of you on the live stream, I do have a moderator there as well. We'll be able to field your questions in addition to those on the Zoom call. With that, today we have with us double Bronco, Aleisha Nelson. Welcome, Aleisha. Aleisha received her undergraduate degree in computer science with a minor in communications in 2017. And she then went on to pursue a master's in engineering, graduated in 2019. While she was an undergrad, Aleisha founded Art by Aleisha. And she continues to pursue her interest in art and this business, all while managing a full-time job as a software engineer for Walmart. So before I turn it over to Aleisha, I thought it might help guide the conversation if we could get to know each other a little bit better. I would love it if each of you could share a brief elevator pitch, including your name, your major, and what entrepreneurship means to you. So I am going to start with our executive director, Chris Norris. So while he is speaking, you can think about that. So Chris, take it away.
Hi, Aleisha, and hi, everybody. So I'm Chris Norris. I'm executive director for Sioka Center. I spent most of my career, 35 years, in industry, and then I've been at the university for 2 years. So I have a relatively recent perspective. I'm always super excited to meet people who are able to take things that they're passionate about and love and find a way to do those kind of things throughout their life. And so what Aleisha has done, I really respect and aspire to, and wish I had more experiences like that of my own. So super happy to have you here, and really appreciate your time and accomplishments.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. All right, I'm going to call out the student names just so you can give us a sentence or two about yourself, your name, your major, and what entrepreneurship means to you. I will call you out in the order on my screen, which is likely different than yours. Amit Jamwar.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, so my name is Amit. So I actually graduated from Santa Clara this past spring with the degree in finance, and I'm currently an online MBA student at Santa Clara too. So entrepreneurship, it's always been a big part of my life. My dad has always encouraged me to have an entrepreneurial mindset, which led me to, I'm trying to start my own company right now. We've been working on it since June. So we're still in a very early stage, but we're actively trying to learn, get advice, and work on our product. So really excited to learn a lot more.
Great, thank you. Dorian?
Hi, my name is Dorian. I am a computer engineering and tech leadership and policy double major, and I am right now trying to start a podcast with one of my friends on technology and business and the impact that has in our world. And to me, entrepreneurship is a way to explore things that we're interested in without some sort of bureaucratic barriers.
Okay. Easton.
Hi, everyone. My name is Easton Holland. I'm a sophomore finance major. As far as entrepreneurship goes, both my parents actually have their own businesses, so it's kind of all that I've known. But I just appreciate all the creative ways that problems are solved and kind of the way things are thought through.
Great. Greta?
Hi, my name is Greta. I'm a current senior at Santa Clara studying web design and engineering as well as communication. And to be honest, I hadn't thought that much about entrepreneurship prior to this, but I've been recently working at a startup in the area, and it has really just opened my eyes to all the possibilities.
Cool. Jessica?
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm a sophomore finance major, and I love entrepreneurship because it kind of opens you up to a lot of opportunities that you wouldn't see otherwise. And also, I kind of want to open my own business later on, so I love listening to other people and their ideas.
Cool. All right, Hallie?
Yes. Hi, my name is Hallie Bodie. I work in the Sioka Center, and for me, entrepreneurship is about that long-term value creation and kind of developing something that in the long run will be really meaningful to folks, ideally solving some sort of problem.
Samiha?
Hi, everyone. My name is Samiha. I'm a senior management information systems major, and I love that you're constantly thinking about how to solve problems in an entrepreneurial way. And I think what I love the most about it is that my perception of entrepreneurship changes like every single time I hear a new entrepreneur speak, and from the beginning of college to now, it's completely different. So I'm excited to hear from Aleisha today.
Great. Seamus?
Hi, my name is Seamus. I am a fifth year technically. I'm part of the 5-year master's program at Santa Clara in the engineering school. I'm majoring in translational bioengineering, but just graduated this past spring. Entrepreneurship to me really just means creatively solving problems that you see in the world in new ways and sort of finding ways to make that a livable income. I'm interested to hear about how art and engineering crossed over in your life, Aleisha, because art's something that I've followed throughout my undergrad experience as an engineer as well.
Great. And last we have Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen. I am a senior computer engineering major with a minor in entrepreneurship. I have worked for a lot of startups and really enjoy that kind of entrepreneurship spirit and kind of wearing multiple hats in kind of a startup setting. So I like learning more about different experiences people have and kind of the not to sound like a broken record, the problem solving aspects of entrepreneurship is also very interesting to me. So thank you.
All right, great. Thanks everyone. Terrific. And we are really glad to have everybody here. So Aleisha, I'm going to hand it over to you so you can share a little bit more about your experience at SCU and how you built your brand.
Cool. Hi, guys. Thank you for sharing your stories. I'm super excited to hear that there's some computer engineers in here because I went through your shoes. Like Shannon said, I graduated in 2017 with a degree in computer science, and then I did the 5th year program where I then got a master's degree in software engineering, and I now work full-time as a software engineer, but I, for the last 4 years, have been building this art business on the side just because it's what I'm really passionate about. And I think when I walk you through how I've built my business, you'll see that. So I have some slides. I think that a better way to share my story was through pictures, because I don't know if any of you follow me on Instagram, but if you look at my Instagram today, it shows a much different brand than what it was 4 years ago. I lived in Graham, and I remember as a sophomore, I was just painting little canvases, anything that people would request through Etsy. I created an Etsy store there. And I was just painting in my dorm room, selling whatever kind of artwork people wanted. And then it was junior year I created my first map, and that was kind of where my art business started to grow. And so I'm going to share with you some slides and just walk you through my story. And then afterwards, we'll do some Q&A so you can see how it can connect to your experiences as well. So sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Cool. So this is a slide just to show you that the evolution of my brand has come a long way. On the top left is my very first logo. I think I just downloaded some cursive font online and created this Art by Aleisha circular thing. And then I got a little more creative a year later. And then it turned into the Art by Aleisha with the topography map around it, and then what it is today. So I'm going to take you back to the beginning and show you how my art business began. This is a picture of my apartment in on Bellamy Street, junior year of college. As you can see, I created this gallery wall in the corner of my room, and on the right-hand side, you can see the first map I ever created, which was of San Francisco, and I hung it up above my bed. And my friends would start coming over to hang out, and they would always ask me about the map on my wall. And so I started offering to make them maps of where they were from, simply just because I thought it would be a fun thing to do, and everyone wanted some artwork for their dorms, so why not? And from there, I slowly started to create this collection of different cities, and I started an Instagram account. So on my Instagram, I would share pictures of maps that I was creating, any kind of artwork I was creating. So I created this watercolor of the Mission Church. I did quotes for people, and I even created a watercolor painting of SWIG for one of the fraternities off campus. And they put it on one of their t-shirts, which was kind of cool. As you can see, my product photography here was really just laying my maps on either the parking lot ground and putting a leaf next to it, or like putting watercolor brushes and whatever I thought was going to make it look cool. These are some pictures I literally took this morning of my Instagram. So if you scroll all the way back down, you'll see how my artwork started. I was really just creating whatever people were requesting, whatever I was finding on Pinterest and thinking would be cool to recreate. And so it, obviously, my point here is just that my brand didn't look like what it did today. It simply started because of me creating things that I enjoyed doing and listening to what other people wanted to see. So in the spring of 2017, which was when I graduated, I was in San Francisco for a weekend, and there was an event going on just down the street, and it was called a craft fair. And at the time, I had no idea what that was. So I decided to walk in and explore it. And basically, it was this warehouse filled with all of these incredible booths that were filled with artists from the Bay Area. So here's 3 pictures of my favorite booths that I've ever seen at craft fairs. One of these is a wood making artist from Oakland, and then another one's a shoe brand that's based in San Francisco. You can see they're doing it like out of a camper, and just being in that environment really inspired me to want to do it myself. And my goal from that day forward was like, I just want to do a craft fair someday. Like, I want to be an artist, and I want to do what they're doing. And so that summer, I started researching craft fairs, and I found that there were so many happening right in San Francisco. And so I applied to one, and I totally thought I wouldn't get in because all I had was my Instagram that I just showed you, with a few maps and some other random things. I didn't think that I had enough products at all to set up a booth and sell my work, but somehow this organization called West Coast Craft let me into their scholarship program for new artists. And suddenly I had to plan out what I was going to show up to this show with. And so this was what I came up with. My brother, who was an undergrad at Santa Clara at the time, he helped me build these wooden shelves, I think, in the parking lot of my apartment. And I put them in my car and drove to San Francisco, and this is what I set up. So this slide is basically a picture that my brother took of all the people that were in my booth looking at my artwork. And it was the first time that I really was like, wow, people are interested in these maps that I created, and not just my friends, like random strangers. And I had so much fun that I knew coming out of that weekend, this was something that I just wanted to keep doing. And it also gave me the confidence to keep doing what I was doing, because it gave me, it showed me that people were genuinely interested in the product that I was creating. So from then on forward, I kind of knew to maybe hone in more on the maps, because that's where the market was. So I left that weekend with a few new goals in mind. And this is my first piece of advice for you guys who are looking to start new businesses, is to always think about ways that you can invest in yourself. So I took the money that I created from, or that I got from that first craft fair, and I used it to just grow my brand, and I put it right back into my business. So for example, I bought this art printer that was going to allow me to start making prints of my maps. I bought a new camera so that I could start taking higher quality photos for my Instagram account. I spent a lot of time researching how other creative people had built their business. There are so many articles online that are super helpful. I started working on new maps, new cities, making old maps that I had created better. And I spent a lot of time buying props for product photography, following other businesses on Instagram and seeing how they were photographing their products. So every minute that I wasn't doing homework for school, I was researching stuff for my art business. Here's just a picture of some of the maps that I create now. They look a little bit different than that first San Francisco map that I showed you. For those of you who maybe aren't as familiar with my brand, I create these customizable neighborhood maps. So people will come to my website and they will request a map of any city, and they'll tell me the color that they want it to be. And then I can also add personalizations for them. So I'll mark wedding venues, home addresses, engagement spots, favorite restaurants, anything you can think of. And now I have like over 300 cities that I've done, and they're all just so fun. So this is my next piece of advice. So after that first craft fair, I started setting goals for myself. At the beginning of each year, I would set goals for my business, and I would keep it to a small list so that I would hold myself accountable to those goals and actually make them happen. This list here these are just some examples of goals that I've set over the past 2 years. And just to touch on one of them, like the second one you see is do 3 craft fairs in cities outside of San Francisco. So the year after I did that first craft fair, I did 2 craft fairs in 2018 in San Francisco. And then my goal was to do 3 in cities across the US. So I'll touch more on that later, but I made that happen. And because I held myself to that, I was able to grow my customer base in new cities. So I just think this is funny because this is the picture of me leaving Home Depot with the supplies for my first real craft fair booth. I showed you the picture of my first one, and once I had seen everyone else's at the show, I was like, I have to show up with something better. Like, these are artists we're dealing with, so they love to create something that's like looks beautiful, and I knew I had to do the same. So my dad flew out to Santa Clara, and we built this booth in the parking lot of I was in grad school at the time. So we're in the parking lot, and the other people who lived in the building with me were like law school students. And I just remember them like kind of walking by being like, what are you doing in the parking lot? But we built, you can see on the bottom left corner, that's the booth we built. So it fits into this 10 by 10 foot space. It has these shelves that allows me to display so many more cities than I was ever able to display before. And then from there, I just started doing more craft fairs, redesigning my setup. And that's something that, at least in my line of business, I always have to be thinking about is product placement. Like, how do you display it in a way that's going to be intuitive to the customer and make them want to purchase it? So this is my timeline of craft fairs. I call last year the year of craft fairs, because my goal for the year, like I mentioned before, was to do 3 craft fairs in cities outside of San Francisco. And I actually ended up doing like 9 or 10 because I loved it so much and I couldn't stop applying to them. So I went from Los Angeles to Austin to Minneapolis, which I'm from Minnesota, so that one was fun. San Francisco, I did one in Chicago, Seattle. I spent 2 weeks in New York. I did craft fairs there back to back, one in Brooklyn and one in Manhattan. And by doing this, the strategy was to go to these fairs and leave out a clipboard basically where people could sign up for my email list, because you always want to be diversifying your network. I don't just want followers on Instagram. I want, like, what if Instagram goes away someday? You want to get people to follow you on Facebook. You want to get people to follow you on TikTok now, or you want to grow your email list so that you have this direct line of contact to your customers. Otherwise, it could all disappear overnight. So doing these craft fairs helped me grow my email list, my Instagram following, and connect with people in person and give them a reason to follow my art journey. So my piece of advice for anyone else starting a business would be to do events, or I guess with coronavirus, that's a little bit tricky right now because events haven't been happening. So like, think of ways where you can connect with people in different forms. Here's just some examples of like the different booths that I did. On the right, I'm in New York. So in New York, you can't ship a booth, right? That's made of wood with you. So I had to go to IKEA and buy things that I could buy while I was there and assemble it that weekend, and then somehow get rid of it, sell it on Facebook Marketplace or something, because I couldn't bring it home with me either. So this next slide is where I'm going to touch on how I've specifically built my Instagram. So in the beginning, like I mentioned, I would only share my artwork, and I never really shared pictures of me, the artist who was making the stuff. I never really shared anything other than the work I was creating. And I had to, at some point, after doing all this research, I realized that people want to see who's making the artwork, and people want to know the story of how it's created, and they want to see how it's created. And on top of that, I took that a little bit further, and I decided that because I make maps, I'm going to incorporate this travel theme into my Instagram. My goal with that was I wanted to broaden my community and connect with different kinds of people so that I could ultimately create this bigger customer base, and hopefully more of those people would eventually want to buy a map. So to do that, I started a blog, and now I write about places I travel to and my favorite spots for you to visit. That gets one group of people interested. When I moved to San Francisco, I started decorating my home, and I would share photos of it. And the response to those photos were really great. So I started sharing more, which is, you see my picture here of my gallery wall, and it's right behind me. So that was like another big project that I did in our house. And things like that, those get the attention of people who are interested in home decor. And then on top of that, I paid for some professional portraits of myself so that I could start telling more of my story on my Instagram. And I do giveaways sometimes, so that will get a whole different group of people who already follow me, tag their friends, and then, you know, new people find out about my brand. Another thing with growing your social media following is freebies, I call them. So I create every month, at the beginning of the month, I create a new wallpaper design with a calendar on it. And that's just kind of something that I do for fun. And I give it out to my followers for free because that's something that I think they enjoy looking forward to at the beginning of every month. And it gives them a reason to continue following along. So obviously these things are very specific to my brand, but my advice here, like I said, is you want to broaden what you're speaking about and what you're sharing because you want to attract as many people as possible, especially if you're using Instagram as a way to market your product. Another thing I want to touch on is just how coronavirus has shaped the way that people do business this year. So I said last year was the year of craft fairs, and then all of a sudden coming into 2020, my plan was to do more craft fairs. And obviously craft fairs are non-existent this year and they haven't happened at all. So I had to start looking for different ways that I was going to make those sales for my art business if I wanted to keep growing it. Two really awesome projects that I'm super grateful for happened while I was home in Minnesota in quarantine. And I had a friend from high school reach out to me about doing a mural in St. Paul, and this on the right side, this life-size map art installation for an apartment building in Minneapolis. And a mural has always been something that was on my bucket list for, like, of course it's on every artist's bucket list. That's so cool. But I had no idea how to paint a mural, and I was not planning to do one this year. But when the opportunity kind of came my way, I put all of my effort into drafting up a concept for it and applying for this mural position because I knew that that was going to be a big project that would maybe make up the same amount of money that I would make at craft fairs. So I'm like YouTubing how to paint a mural. And all of a sudden I'm like 30 feet up on this lift, like painting it with my parents. I don't know. I think they thought it was fun, but yeah. So basically with your business, you just have to be ready for whatever is going to change because the way you do business might be completely flipped upside down, and you just have to be willing to accept that and adapt to the change. This is my last slide before I open it up for some questions I have for you. But basically, I want these to be the key learnings that you guys maybe take away from my story. And the first one is don't reinvent the wheel. So over the past 4 years, I have reached out to so many other business owners on Instagram, just sent them a DM or walked up to them at craft fairs and asked them questions in person. Don't be shy. Other people have done probably something similar to what you're trying to do, and they are most often willing to help. So I try to respond to anyone who sends me questions on Instagram because I learned so much by others answering my questions back. My next one is pick something that you're passionate about. I hope it's very obvious that I'm super passionate about artwork. If you're close friends with me or live with me, like, you would know that there are maps all over our apartment, all over the floor, everywhere. And I'm always working on my art business. So it's very clearly something that I'm passionate about. And I think that if you are passionate about it, it's going to grow more easily than if you're not. Like, don't try to force something because if you're not interested in it, you're going to get bored. My next one is that building a brand takes time. I'm 4 years into my business now. So it took me 4 years to get to where I am. And that's a long time. And that's why I have this full-time job, because I wanted to build it on the side until maybe someday I'll be able to do it as a full-time thing. Just be patient with it. I think a lot of people get scared because their business doesn't double or grow right away in the first year, but it's 4 years for me and I'm still trying to figure out ways to continue growing. So yeah, and then my next one is always stick with your gut feeling. So your brand is going to be you, at least in my line of work, it's me because it's my artwork. But basically, if you're running a business, stick with your gut feeling about something. Like, other people will always have opinions and probably suggestions for you. But if you don't think it's a fit for your brand, then don't go with it. Like, you don't have to take every piece of advice that someone else says to you. Like, I think when I was building my first craft fair, my second craft fair booth, some of my family and friends were like, Aleisha, this is so much work. Why do we have to do this? And I'm like, it's the brand. It has to look like me. It has to look like something that I created. And I stuck with that. And I'm so glad that I did. The next one is that roadblocks and obstacles are guaranteed to happen. You will not always get said yes to. People will express criticism. For me, that was at craft fairs. People would share their opinion about why my map was completely wrong, or some part of it was not included and they were upset by that or something. And you just have to be able to navigate those conversations in a positive way and hopefully take whatever they're trying to say to you and incorporate it back into your business. Sometimes you just have to brush it off and let it go. And then another thing that I've dealt with is people copying my artwork. So there's always going to be obstacles, and you're going to have to navigate different things that you'd never think you'd have to, and just be ready for that. And then the last two are just ones that I've touched on in my previous slides. So invest money back into your business. That's my biggest one. And set goals for yourself. That's my Instagram handle. These are kind of what my product photography photos look like today. So clearly they're a lot different than the ones I was taking on the parking lot ground at Santa Clara. So these are my questions for you guys. I'm hoping that some of you will want to share your answers. But basically, what stands out to you about the brands that you follow on social media, and why do you continue to follow them? You can think about it for a little bit, and then I guess just speak up if.
Yeah, I think this relates well to what you were talking about, eventually finding your brand and something that's very unique to your style, because at least the brands that I love on social media are the ones that are very unique and don't try to do everything. Like when I see a post without seeing the handle, I should know it's them. I think those are the ones that tend to be kind of the most exciting to follow and pay attention to. So that's what I kind of end up being attracted to in terms of brands.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I actually sorry,
go ahead. No, go.
So that's kind of something that I've been working on with the startup. I've kind of been helping them out with social media, and in my research, I think I found a lot of what you were talking about is marketing towards a group, kind of knowing your audience, but also not limiting it, and then just keeping things very like cohesive, professional, and knowing who you are and trying to best represent that to your clients.
Yeah. Was someone else going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think brands that, in my experience, are a lot more, have more longevity on social media are ones that are much more relatable to people, that seem authentic and not just moving from one thing that's hot to the next, trying to I guess, ride the wave. I think there's a little bit of a balance there between getting the exposure, but also being real to what the brand is and not shifting that message as the external factors change.
Yeah. Anyone else? I think for me, some of the brands that I follow on social media and that I enjoy continuing to follow are ones that obviously are like other artists who are producing new work that just aligns with my own interests. I also think it's really cool when brands are doing something on the side, like if they're a stationary brand, but then they're also conscious about giving back to like charities that are planting trees or something where they're being they give back or they donate a portion of their sales to something. I just think that you can kind of tell that the people behind the brand are like good people, and I think that's an attractive quality, especially on social media. Anyone else?
I think just going off of sort of that, I guess, current events standpoint of social media, I think it's interesting and I guess intriguing in a way when social media companies or brands that I follow choose to comment on certain current events or things like that, or maybe something that is related to their field, or even something that's really just important to the people behind the brand. That's maybe not necessarily just the brand itself. So like, I know some certain clothing companies coming out and sort of taking a stand on Black Lives Matter and other social justice causes. I think that goes to that same point of saying sort of the people behind the brand are good people too, and sort of appreciating that aspect of it helps me to want to keep following them.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that those are all really good answers. And you should think about if you had an answer yourself and you're trying to build a brand on social media, like think about that answer that you just gave and try to incorporate that back into your brand. Like I'm constantly trying to think about reasons that I follow brands on social media. And if I see something cool that another brand's doing, then I'll maybe try incorporating it into my own stuff as well. So yeah. Okay. I guess also I just want to mention that something I didn't really touch on is how I've incorporated my computer science background into my art business. I didn't code my website from scratch because I have 2 jobs right now and that I didn't have the time to do that. But I am more of a front-end developer in my full-time job. So that has given me a lot of tools to take back to my art website and add enhancements to it. And I think that anyone who is studying computer engineering, or even if you're not, like it's a super helpful tool to know at least some of the basics, because I've been able to add a lot of new features to my own website just through the knowledge that I have on computer science, and none of it's like super in depth. So that's always like a useful tool, I think, in customizing your online platform.
Well, that was great, Aleisha, and love your questions, and thanks for answering those. And hopefully this discussion has deepened everybody's understanding of marketing and branding, and probably you have some questions, I would imagine, for Aleisha now. So I would love to open this up for just a general question and answer for Aleisha to all of you, so that you can engage for a little longer. And also, we will be taking questions from the live stream as well. So if you have questions from the live stream, please feel free to send them in, and we can ask those as well. So you can just either start talking or raise your hand. Aleisha can, those on the Zoom here, it's a pretty, she can just call on you.
I have a question. I've seen this a lot with like Instagram influencers and like the brands that they kind of perceive and stuff. And so I'm curious, like, how do you differentiate engagement versus growth? Like on your personal brand, you can have, a lot of followers, but you can only, some people I see only get like, a fraction of the likes or the comments and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess I'm curious about your experience with that.
Yeah, so that's obviously a super interesting one. Just from the beginning, Instagram was a lot different, and I think that the engagement was a lot higher, to be honest. And as I've grown my following, Instagram has created new algorithms and ways that they're trying to show your content to other people. And I've done a lot of research on that as well. I've talked to other business owners about how it's going for them. And I think that overall, there's this feeling that the engagement is just lower than it used to be. And that can be a little bit frustrating. But at the same time, my biggest thing that I always say is that the number of followers that someone has on social media does not always portray like how well they're doing as a business. I know people who are doing, they work as a full-time artist and they only have like 1,000 followers on Instagram. And I guess, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, like engagement might be low and you might have a high number of followers, but in my experience, a lot more people watch my stories than like my posts. So there's things like that your audience, you don't always see about a brand. Like they might have super high engagement on their stories and not on their posts. So that is something that I'm always thinking about. Like, how can I create content that's going to be, people are going to engage with, but I don't let it run, how I think about Instagram, because otherwise I'd go a little crazy.
Gotcha. Yeah. Do you have any like theories why that might be generally the case in this kind of field? Like why the engagement is so much lower? I'm just curious if you've ever thought about that.
I actually don't really know. I wish I did. I think it's something that people are just feeling overall. And I think that maybe it's just because Instagram is trying to either show you new content rather than the same people all the time or something like that. But it's definitely changed, and it's like a business decision that Instagram made, and I don't know if there's really a way to get around it. But yeah, you just always have to think about, how can I create something that people will engage with, and just keep trying.
Gotcha, thanks.
To go off that, I think partially the issue is that social media is so saturated right now with so much content. It's harder for certain accounts to like to shine through your endless feed of like posts and stuff like that. So I think one of the cooler things in the past few years were the sponsored, like you have sponsored posts that show up in your feed. Do you feel like it's worth spending money on sponsored ads and things like that to grow your brand as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've experimented with that over the last 2 years. Sometimes I will pay some money for Instagram advertisements. I will say that I don't think it has helped a ton. Maybe I'm not pouring enough money into it. I think in order to really see results, you need to pour in maybe $100 or more. But it depends what you're trying to do. So they give you different options. You can either direct people back to your Instagram page, or you can direct them through a sponsored post directly to a link on your website. So if it was a sale that I'm doing or something on my website, I think it would be more worth paying for something like that, because they could directly like swipe up and go to your website and make a purchase. I'm making money off of paying for that ad rather than just paying to get followers. I think the best way, in my experience, to grow my following was to do giveaways and to do in-person events rather than paying for advertisements.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much. Because sometimes like I've accidentally clicked on an ad and then I found myself on some business's website. I'm like, okay, it's kind of cool. So then that's like a chance you can take, I guess. If you accidentally stumble upon your business, which is interesting too.
Yeah.
Aleisha, I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about your vision for the future, and if you have any advice on like goal setting when you have a side hustle and it's not like, you know, what you do all day every day yet.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask, like, do you have a side hustle? Like, what is it?
I mean, I would like to soon. I mean, I would love to, you know, get a full-time job, but also kind of start working on something of my own. I'm just curious, like, when you don't have, you know, 24 hours in a day to kind of think about your business, how do you set goals that are manageable for you and, you know, but still kind of attain the growth that you want to see?
Yeah. So I think this goes back to being passionate about what your side hustle is. For me, my work hours for my art business are maybe 7 p.m. to like 1 a.m. I, you know, work 9 to 5, and then I'll eat dinner, and then I will just start working on my art stuff. And I think that's been the case pretty much for the last 4 years. In college, it was go to class, do my homework, and any spare minute in between there, I would be working on new maps and, you know, like researching stuff for my Instagram or making a website or, so my best piece of advice there would be, if you're just starting out, like, you don't have to portion 5 hours of your night to that thing. Just give yourself like an hour or two after dinner. Instead of watching a TV show, or like, instead of scrolling through Instagram for 3 hours, just put your phone down and maybe focus on looking into, you know, stuff that could pertain to your brand, or like start an Instagram handle like right now. That's my best piece of advice. Just start it, start posting pictures before you even request to follow. Like what I did was I started my Instagram, and then I just went and followed everyone that followed my personal Instagram account. So just like little things like that, build a website, like give yourself mini business goals basically in the beginning.
Thanks for sharing. And I also wanted to ask, where do you see like Art by Aleisha going in the next few years as well?
Yeah, so that one is tough to answer, obviously, because coronavirus just kind of like made my whole business plan for this year turn upside down. But I think after doing the mural that I did in the spring and these other large scale art projects, I had so much fun doing those. So I think that in the next few years, my goal would be to do larger art projects for more, you know, commercial buildings or brands, and working with, you know, larger companies and doing stuff that is just continuing to diversify the products that I have. You know, I have my maps and I've been doing those for so long, and I don't see myself stopping the map thing, but yeah, just like taking on new kinds of art projects and hopefully larger scale ones. I think that's my goal. I guess another thing that I've been thinking about recently is how I could incorporate my computer science knowledge into my art brand. So whether that's like helpful tips on how people can create customizations for their own brand websites, or something like that. Like, I think that would be cool. Or maybe like coding websites for people and designing them at the same time.
Aleisha, this question came in from the live stream. So as an artist, visual elements likely come naturally to you. So what about for people who don't have that sort of natural artistic ability as far as brand building? Do you have any resources or suggestions?
Yeah, that is an awesome question. Although I can create things on my own, like graphics for my Instagram or my website, I use a handful of apps to also just get ideas from. I think one place that I always look for inspiration is Pinterest. There's so much brand graphic design content on there that inspires me. I use this app called Over. It's a yellow icon with a white circle in the middle. And that app gives you templates that you can just start from, like you can just use and copy and paste your text into it. And it could be like a sale graphic or anything else. They have so many templates on there. It's really cool. I know that another one is Canva. I don't use that personally, but I've heard other people use that for templates. And you can also find a handful of creative templates on places like Etsy. Like people are just creating things that you can download and use. And yeah, I guess another one for like Instagram stories, one of my favorites is called Unfold. It is like a template for you to put your pictures into, and it'll make them look like film, or, you know, it's fun to play around with. Anyone else?
Do you have any tips for growing an early audience?
Like, yeah, I guess just how I started was I created my Instagram. I posted a bunch of pictures to my Instagram before I followed anyone so that it looked like it was like already an established business kind of. And then I went through and I followed all of my friends on my personal Instagram account and basically just tried to find people that I went to school with. One of the nice things about starting my brand in school was that I was surrounded by so many people that were the same age as me and maybe were going to be interested in my artwork. Someone reminded me the other day that I was in a sorority when I was in college, and I got up, I think my senior year, in front of everyone, and like did a little announcement that I was making maps if people wanted them for Christmas. And I totally forgot that I did that until they reminded me the other day. But that would be another suggestion, like just getting up in front of groups at school. Like, don't be shy. You can't be shy. You just have to be confident about it. And it's scary, especially when you're an artist and you're advertising your own artwork. You know, it's kind of like, hey, look at me. But you just have to do it and take a chance. And then like slowly but surely, people, I think, will start to believe in you.
All right, thank you.
Aleisha, this is another question that came in. When you're talking about engineering enhancements on your website, what does that mean?
So, for example, you know, sometimes as an artist, like you wouldn't want people to drag and drop images from your product pages, especially if it's like a picture of your design that you've created. So there's like ways that you can code that into your website to prevent people from dragging and dropping images or right clicking and saving that. You know, people think they have ways around it, but there's always another way to code it so that they can't do that. Another thing for me that I've been dealing with personally is how to create categories, like how to organize my maps in a way that's easy for people to find the city they're looking for. So if I wanted to, I could, you know, custom code a way for people to filter through different cities, because I build my website on Squarespace. So the template that I use doesn't allow for me to do that easily through their website. So I'd have to code that myself, or just simple style enhancements. If there's like a menu bar at the top that you think is really cool from a different website, you know, you can change the way that your Squarespace website looks by adding code to it and, you know, changing the colors. And I don't know, if you wanted to create like an animation that happens on the page, if you click on a button and it opens this window, but you want it to look like, I don't know, like spin around and then open, like if that was what you really wanted to do, you could code that to happen.
Okay. We have a few minutes left if anybody has any more questions.
Sorry, I live in San Francisco, so it's kind of noisy sometimes.
Okay. Well, we have a couple minutes left. And I just wanted to thank Aleisha so much for coming on to Broncos actually, and for helping with this super active discussion. And I wanted to thank our Zoom participants for coming, and also those on the live stream. Thank you for joining us tonight. So we did record this session, and it will be available on our Seoka Center website. And if you have more questions for Aleisha, she let me know that you can follow her on her Instagram, which is @artbyaleisha, and she will answer your DMs. And you can also email her. So if you do have more questions that you couldn't think of today, those are two ways to reach her. So I do want to be respectful of her time. So thank you very much, Aleisha, and thank you to our audience for coming. We're so glad we could have this time together.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening.
Thank you,
Thank
Aleisha.
you.
That's really great.
Thank you very much.
Really great.
Thank you.
Thank you.